They say money can't buy happiness, but let me tell you something. It sure can buy your freedom. My husband thought I was nothing, a nobody he could push around, hit, and break. He had no idea the woman he was beating carried more power in her pinky than he'd ever have in his entire miserable life. Before we dive into my story, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button and ring that bell. Trust me, you're going to want to hear every single word of what I'm about to tell you. This is a story about survival, secrets, and the sweetest revenge you could ever imagine. Now, let me take you back to where it all began. I met Trevor at a church community cookout on a sunny Saturday afternoon. I was 26 years old, working as a cashier at a local grocery store, living in a small apartment, driving an old Honda. To everyone around me, I was just Nikki Johnson, a quiet, hard-working girl trying to make it. And that's exactly who I wanted to be. Trevor seemed like a dream at first. He was a construction foreman, always talking about building a better future, about family values, and treating a woman right. He opened doors, called when he said he would, and made me laugh. My coworkers thought I'd hit the jackpot. "Girl, he's a good man," they'd say. "Don't let that one get away." 6 months later, we were married at the courthouse. It was small, simple, just us, 2 witnesses, and a judge. I told myself it was romantic, that we didn't need a big wedding, but looking back I realize I was already isolated. I'd told Trevor I didn't have family, which wasn't exactly a lie. My parents were gone. What I didn't tell him was everything else. The first 3 months were fine. We played house in his apartment. I cooked, he worked, we watched movies on the couch. But then small things started changing. He'd check my phone while I was in the shower. He'd ask why I needed to go to the store alone. He'd get angry if I mentioned a male coworker, even in passing. I told myself he just loved me, that he was protective. I made excuses because I wanted it to work. The first time he called me stupid, I was cutting vegetables for dinner. I'd bought the wrong kind of onions, yellow instead of white. Such a small thing, but he exploded. Told me I couldn't do anything right, that I was useless, that he should have married someone with sense. I cried myself to sleep that night while he snored beside me like nothing happened. After that, the insults became regular. I was too slow, too quiet, too lazy, too something. He controlled every dollar. My paycheck went into his account. He gave me a small allowance for groceries and necessities. I had to show him receipts for everything. When I asked about opening my own account, he accused me of planning to leave him, called me ungrateful. I backed down. I always backed down. 6 months into our marriage, during an argument about dinner being cold, he pushed me. I fell against the kitchen counter, hard enough to bruise my ribs. He apologized that night, cried, said he didn't know what came over him, promised it would never happen again. I believed him because I needed to believe him. I'd already cut off the few friends I had. I'd told my late parents' old friends I was fine, that I didn't need anything. I was alone, and Trevor knew it. But it did happen again, and again. A slap here, a shove there. Then came the punches. He'd hit me in places people wouldn't see. My stomach, my back, my ribs. I learned to wear long sleeves in summer. I learned to lie to the doctor about how I got hurt. I learned to disappear into myself. Then I found out I was pregnant. I thought maybe, just maybe, this would change him. I imagined him crying tears of joy, promising to be a better man for our child. But when I told him, his face went cold. He asked if I was sure it was his. That question broke something in me I didn't even know could break. I'd never so much as looked at another man, and he knew it, but he needed to hurt me, so he did. The pregnancy made everything worse. He said I was getting fat, that I was disgusting. When I had morning sickness, he complained about the noise. When I was tired, he called me lazy, and he didn't stop hitting me. If anything, he hit harder. One night, after I'd burned the rice, he punched me so hard in the side I thought I'd lose the baby. I lay on the bathroom floor for hours, crying, praying, begging God to protect my child. That was my breaking point. Not for me. I'd stopped mattering to myself months ago, but for my baby. My innocent baby who didn't ask for any of this. Here's what Trevor didn't know. Here's what nobody in my new life knew. My real name isn't Nikki Johnson, it's Monique Lavelle. I was born into wealth most people only see in movies. My father, Howard Lavelle, built a pharmaceutical manufacturing empire from the ground up. Started in a small lab, created treatments that saved lives, grew it into a company worth billions. My mother, Gloria, came from old money. Her family owned commercial real estate across the East Coast for generations. I grew up in a world of private schools, vacation homes, and people who smiled to your face but wanted your money. I learned young that most people didn't see Monique, they saw dollar signs. Every friend I made, I wondered if they really liked me or just what I could give them. Every boy who showed interest, I questioned his motives. It was exhausting, never knowing what was real. When I was 19, my parents died in a private plane crash. One moment they were flying to our summer home, the next, they were gone. I inherited everything, but the lawyers and my parents' longtime advisor, Bernard, convinced me to put it all in a trust until I turned 30. They said I was too young, too grief-stricken to handle that kind of wealth. They were right. For the next few years, I spiraled. I lived off a modest allowance from the trust, went to college, tried to find myself. But I was so tired of the fakeness, the shallow relationships, the constant guard I had to keep up. So when I turned 25, I made a decision. I changed my name legally, moved to a different state where nobody knew the Lavelle name, and started over. I wanted to find genuine love. I wanted someone to choose me for me, not for what I could buy them. I got a regular job, a regular apartment, a regular life, and when I met Trevor, he had no idea. To him, I was just a grocery store cashier with no family and no money, and he married me anyway. Or so I thought. Looking back, I think he married me because he thought he could control me. A woman with no family, no resources, no options, the perfect victim. I'd planned to tell him the truth eventually, after I knew for sure he loved me for me. But then the abuse started, and I realized I couldn't tell him. He'd never let me go if he knew. He'd find a way to trap me, to take what was mine. So I stayed quiet, counting down the days until my 30th birthday, when I'd get full access to my inheritance. The letter came 2 weeks before my birthday, certified mail, requiring a signature. Trevor was home when the mailman knocked. He watched me sign for it, suspicious. I opened it with shaking hands. It was from Bernard, my family's attorney. He needed to meet with me urgently regarding the release of my trust. My full inheritance would be available in 14 days. Trevor snatched the letter from my hands, read it, and frowned. "What's this about? You got family money you didn't tell me about?" My heart pounded, but I'd learned to lie. "It's from my aunt. She passed away last year. Left me a small inheritance, probably a few $1,000s. He grunted, satisfied. "Better be more than a few thousand. We need a new truck." I said nothing. I just took the letter back and hid it in my purse. That night, while he snored, I lay awake, planning. I had 2 weeks. 2 weeks to prepare for my freedom. I met Bernard at his downtown office. When his secretary led me into his office, the look on his face nearly broke me. I'd worn my best attempt at covering the bruises, but he saw through it. He'd known me since I was a child. He'd watched my father bounce me on his knee. And now here I was, thin, scared, wearing sunglasses indoors. "Monique," he said quietly, and I started crying. I'd been Nikki for so long, hearing my real name felt like coming home. I told him everything, every hit, every insult, every moment of fear. He listened, his jaw tight, his eyes wet. When I finished, he opened my file. "You need to see what you're working with," he said. "Your father's company shares alone are worth $800 million. Your mother's real estate portfolio is worth another $1 billion. Then there are the investment accounts, the properties in your name, the cash assets. Monique, your net worth is approximately $3.2 billion. I stared at him. I'd known I was wealthy, but hearing the number out loud made it real. I had $3 billion, and I'd been living in fear of a man who made $60,000 a year. Bernard didn't waste time. He helped me set everything up quietly. We opened bank accounts in my real name at different banks. We transferred enough money into one for immediate needs. He suggested starting with 5 million liquid. We prepared divorce papers with an attorney who specialized in high net worth cases. We hired a private security team who could respond within minutes. We pulled together every piece of evidence I had. Photos of bruises, medical records, witness statements from the one coworker I'd confided in. We also discovered something interesting. The house Trevor and I lived in, I owned it. When I'd first moved to town as Nikki Johnson, I'd bought several properties through an LLC as investments on Bernard's advice. Trevor had been renting from a property management company that was managing my properties. When we got married, I'd quietly paid off the lease. He thought he was the provider, the one with the power. He had no idea he'd been living in my house the entire time. We prepared a restraining order, ready to file the moment I said the word. Bernard even arranged for a luxury apartment in my real name, fully furnished, ready for me and my baby. Everything was set. I just had to wait for my birthday and gather my courage. For that final week, I went home every day and played the role. I cooked his meals, kept my eyes down, and said yes to everything. Trevor had no idea that the woman he'd beaten into submission was about to become untouchable. Every time he barked an order, I smiled inside, counting down the hours. My birthday fell on a Saturday. I'd made a small cake for myself during the day while Trevor was out. When he came home that evening, he was drunk. He saw the cake on the counter and his face twisted with rage. "What the hell is this? You waste my money on cake for yourself?" Selfish, just like always. He moved toward me, his hand raising. For months, that gesture had made me flinch, made me cower. But not this time. This time, I stood straight and looked him in the eye. "Touch me," I said, my voice steady, "and lose everything." He froze, confused. "What did you say to me?" I smiled. I said, "Touch me and lose everything." Before he could respond, there was a knock at the door. Trevor's head whipped around. "Who's that?" "Why don't you answer it and find out?" He stomped to the door and yanked it open. 3 men in suits stood there, and behind them was Bernard. Trevor's face went from angry to confused to scared in seconds. "Trevor Williams?" one of the security guards asked. "Yeah, who's asking?" "You need to step aside, sir." Trevor puffed up. "This is my house. Get out before I—" "It's not your house," I said from behind him. "It's mine. I own it. The deed is in my name." He spun around. "What are you talking about?" "Have you lost your mind?" Bernard stepped forward holding a folder. "Mr. Williams, I'm Bernard Chester, attorney for Monique Lavelle. I'm here to serve you with divorce papers and inform you that a restraining order has been filed against you. You're required to vacate these premises immediately." "Monique? Who the hell is Monique?" Trevor looked at me. "Nikki, what is this? What's going on?" I walked closer, feeling powerful for the first time in over a year. "My name isn't Nikki Johnson. It's Monique Lavelle. My father built a pharmaceutical empire. My mother came from real estate royalty. I'm worth over $3 billion. And you, Trevor, you get nothing." The color drained from his face. "You're lying." "I'm not. Every paycheck I gave you, that was me playing a role. This house? Mine. That truck you drive? I paid for it. Everything you thought you had? It was always mine." He lunged for me, but the security guards blocked him instantly. "You can't do this. We're married. I have rights." Bernard opened the folder. "You signed a prenuptial agreement, Mr. Williams. Remember? You didn't read it carefully because you thought your wife had nothing. But that agreement protects all of Mrs. Lavelle's assets, acquired before and during the marriage. You're entitled to nothing." The police arrived then. They'd been waiting outside. One of the officers approached Trevor with the restraining order. "Mr. Williams, you need to come with us. You're not allowed within 500 feet of Mrs. Lavelle from this moment forward." Trevor's face went red, then purple. He screamed, he threatened, he called me every name in the book. But the security guards and police didn't budge. They escorted him out of my house, out of my life. I watched through the window as they drove him away. When the door closed, I collapsed onto the couch. Bernard sat beside me, his hand on my shoulder. "You're free," he said. "You're safe now." And for the first time in over a year, I believed it. 4 months later, I gave birth to my daughter, Gabrielle. She came into the world screaming, healthy and perfect. I held her in my arms in my private hospital room and made her a promise. I promised her she'd never see her mother diminished, never see her accept abuse, never question her own worth. I promised to be strong for her, to show her what a woman could be. Trevor tried to fight the divorce. He hired lawyer after lawyer, claiming he deserved half of everything. But the prenup was ironclad, and the evidence of abuse was overwhelming. The judge granted me the divorce in record time and awarded me full custody. Trevor was ordered to stay away from us. He never paid a dime of child support, not that we needed it. I stepped into my real life slowly. I moved into the penthouse Bernard had prepared, decorated it with colors that made me happy. I took my place on the board of my father's company, learning the business he'd built. I reconnected with family friends who remembered my parents, who welcomed me home. And I started a foundation, the Lavelle Foundation for Survivors. We help women escape domestic violence. We provide housing, legal support, job training, counseling. We make sure no woman has to stay because she can't afford to leave. Every woman I help, I see myself. I see that scared girl who thought she had nowhere to go. Money didn't make my problems disappear. It didn't erase the trauma or heal the scars Trevor left on my body and soul. But it gave me options, it gave me freedom, it gave me the power to take back my life and help others take back theirs. People ask me sometimes if I regret hiding who I was, if I regret marrying Trevor. The truth is, I don't regret trying to find genuine love. I regret that he was a monster, but I don't regret learning that I'm stronger than I ever imagined. I survived. My daughter and we're thriving. Trevor? Last I heard, he's living in a trailer, still telling anyone who'll listen about the billions he almost had. But almost doesn't count. And Karma? She's patient, but she never forgets. If you're in a situation like I was, please know this. You are worth more than someone else's anger. You deserve love, safety, and respect. And if my story taught me anything, it's that we're stronger than we ever imagine. Drop a comment below if this story touched you. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe because I've got more stories that'll remind you just how powerful you really are. Remember, never let anyone dim your light. Not now, not ever.